Pashupaki jure Pashana vidare Shuni jar gunagata
Pasupaki jure Pasana vidare Suni jar gunagata
Sangsare magia Rohili podia Se pode dohilo asha
Samsare majhiya
Rohili podia Se pode dohilo
asa
Apana korama Bunjaye shamana Kohoye lochana dasa
apana karama bunjaye samana koyale lochana dasa
Parama Koruna Pahu Dvijan Nitai Gorachandra
Parama karuna bahudvijana nitai gaura chandra
Sab Avatar Shar Shiramani Kevala Ananda Kanda
Savai avatar sarasiromani kevalananda kanda
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajak Acharya Ashtotara Sata Shishimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Ananta Koti Vaishnavrind ki jai.
Jai.
ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai
Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai.
Jai
Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrind ki jai.
Jai
Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Shyam Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai.
Jai
Vrindavan Dham ki jai.
Jai
Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai.
Jai
Ganga Mai ki jai.
Jai
Jamuna Mai ki jai.
Jai
Tulsi Devi ki jai.
Jai
Bhakti Devi ki jai.
Jai
Shomaveta Bhakta Brinda ki jai.
Jai
Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari Bol
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna
All glories to the assembled devotees.
Hare Krishna
All glory to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hari Hari Bo.
Hare Hare
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutare Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
Jai Jai Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda
We're studying the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, Chapter 8, text number 398. These are the Lord instructing Srila Sanatan Goswami. Does anybody remember where this took place? Anybody?
In Vrindavan?
It was in Benares, Kashi. Yeah. And so this was about almost exactly 500 years ago. Almost exactly 500, a little less than little more than 500 years ago. So, and just to remind you, Bhagavad Gita is the ABCs. Srimad Bhagavatam is the graduate study of Bhagavad Gita, and Chaitanya Charitamrita is the postgraduate study. So this is very elevated subject matter. In Bhagavad Gita, we learn about the difference between the soul and the body, karma, the transmigration of souls, the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and what this material world is doing, and demigods, things like that. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, we get further instruction about applying the principles of Bhagavad Gita in the lives of the Bhagavatas, the devotees, and their relationship with the Supreme Lord. And Chaitanya Charitamrita, this gives further additional information gleaned from Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures that goes further describing the activities and qualities of Lord Krishna. So this is quite advanced stuff. The Bhagavad Gita information, we'll take the information, apply it, and then we can realize it early in our devotional service. This information here will take quite a bit longer because it's on a highly elevated platform. So, for example, the Bhagavad Gita describes how the soul is different from the body. So, by following the 4 regulative principles, meat eating, no illicit sex, no intoxication, no gambling, and regularly chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we can come to that realization relatively quickly. This information about the Lord's descriptions of his avatars and his activities and abode in the spiritual world, this is very advanced stuff. So the example is given. If you want to know who your father is, you have to ask your mother. That's the best way to get reliable, accurate information. And if your mother doesn't know, you're in trouble. But in the same way, we get information about the spiritual world and the Lord's activities with his devotees in the spiritual world. That's beyond our sense perception and even our early realization. But it's possible if we get it from the person who knows about those things, the Lord himself. So that's what's going on here. He's giving that information through the quotations of Vedic literature. Okay, so text 398.
Braje Krishna Bhaishwarjo Prakashe Purnotam Puridaya Parobhame Purnotar Purno.
Krishna is complete in the spiritual sky, Vaikuntha. He is more complete in Mathura and Dvaraka, and he is most complete in Vrindavan, Vraj, due to his manifesting all his opulences. Purport. This is confirmed in the following 3 verses from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So you're familiar with Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is that's the Sanskrit for another book. You know which book?
Nectar of Devotion.
Yes, Nectar Devotion. And the Nectar Devotion was compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami, one of Lord Chaitanya's principal associates, one of the 6 Goswamis. And how did he develop it? Well, he wrote it under the instruction of Lord Chaitanya, and he researched all the Vedic literature to support and come up with the parts of the Vedic literature which describe the Lord and his devotional service. Therefore, Srinivas Acharya, who was the second generation of devotees after Lord Chaitanya, wrote a nice prayer to the 6 Goswamis called Sad Goswami Ashtakam. And it's there in the beginning, at least one verse is there in the beginning of the Nectar Devotion. It goes, Nana Shastra Vicharanaikkanipano Sadharma Sangstapako. It says that those 6 Goswamis were mining the jewels from the Vedas to get those, especially those portions of the Vedas, Sadharma, which support eternal devotional service to the Lord. So they didn't make up these things, but they're coming from various parts of the Vedic literature. So this is Sanskrit. Hari Purnatama Purna Tara Purna iti tridha Shreshta Madhyadibi Shabdair Nate Ja Paripatyate. This is stated in the dramatic literatures as perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. Thus, Lord Krishna manifests himself in 3 ways: perfect, more perfect, and most perfect. Text 400. Prakashita kila guna smrita purnatamo budhai asarva vyajaka purna tara purnolpa darshaka. When the Supreme Personality of Godhead does not manifest all his transcendental qualities, he is called complete. When all the qualities are manifest, but not fully, he is called more complete. And when he manifests all of his qualities in fullness, he is called most complete. This is the version of all learned scholars in the devotional science. So did you catch that? Ram Kumar, what is complete?
Complete means fully complete, Prabhuji. It's like a ocean, and it's a.
But in this particular verse, what is complete meaning?
Yes, 64 qualities.
But he doesn't manifest all of those qualities. That's complete here. But when all the qualities are manifest, but not fully manifest, in other words, he has among those 64 qualities and then the sub-qualities, he manifests them, but not fully. That's called more complete. And when he manifests all those qualities completely, fully, then that's called most complete. Okay. Krishnasya purnatatmata vyakta bhut gokulantare purnata purnatarata dvaraka maturadishu. The most complete qualities of Krishna are manifest within Vrindavan, and his complete and more complete qualities are manifest in Dvaraka and Mathura. Next.
এই কৃষ্ণ ব্রজে পূর্ণতম ভগবান আর সব স্বরূপ পূর্ণতর পূর্ণ নাম.
Lord Krishna is the most complete Supreme Personality of Godhead in Vrindavan. Elsewhere, all his expansions are either complete or more complete.
সংক্ষেপে কহিলুম কৃষ্ণের স্বরূপ বিচার অনন্ত কহিতে নারে ইহার বিস্তার.
Thus, I have briefly described Krishna's manifestation of transcendental forms. This subject matter is so large that even Lord Ananta cannot describe it fully.
অনন্ত স্বরূপ কৃষ্ণের নাহিক গণন শাখা চন্দ্র ন্যায় করি দিক দর্শন.
In this way, Krishna's transcendental forms are expanded unlimitedly. No one can count them. Whatever I have explained is simply a little glimpse. It is like showing the moon through the branches of a tree. Is this a expression that you find in India, showing the moon through the branches of a tree?
Yeah, full moon day.
No?
See.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the idea is that the branches of the tree, you can see they're right there, but the moon is so far away, and it's quite elevated. So similarly, we're talking a little bit about these things, but Lord Krishna is so much beyond this material manifestation like that.
ইহা যেই শুনে পড়ে সেই ভাগ্যবান, কৃষ্ণের স্বরূপ তত্ত্বের হয় কিছু কিছু জ্ঞান।
Whoever hears or recites these descriptions of the expansions of Krishna's body is certainly a very fortunate man. Although this is very difficult to understand, one can nonetheless acquire some knowledge about the different features of Krishna's body. So here, Srila Prabhupada says, is certainly a very fortunate man. During this time, when somebody said man, it included women. So women are included in that. That's the generic man. Nowadays, in textbooks, they intersperse man, woman, him, her, like that. That became a convention in the late 80s. But at this time, when you said man here, it refers to people, all men, mankind, like that. So you have been hearing this. I guess you and I have become fortunate by doing this. Thank you.
শ্রীরূপ রঘুনাথ পদে যার আশ, চৈতন্য চরিতামৃত কহে কৃষ্ণদাস।
From lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila 20th chapter, describing how Sanatan Goswami met the Lord at Varanasi and received knowledge of the absolute truth. So this Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, at the end of every chapter, he ends this way, because the process of spiritual knowledge is to follow the footsteps of the previous teachers and acharyas. Not that he's making it up or coming up with some brilliant ideas on his own, but to simply accept and hear from the previous acharyas and repeat it. Sometimes it's said like a parrot, but a parrot has very little realization, but with realization as well. So here we have Raghunath Das Goswami. Raghunath Das Goswami, it says here, praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath. So Raghunath Goswami was earlier, we heard yesterday, he was earlier in Bengal, but then later he went to Puri, and Lord Chaitanya put him under the care of his secretary, Swarup Damodar Goswami. So Raghunath Das got information from Swarup Damodar, who was the Lord's personal secretary. And later he went to Vrindavan, and every day for several hours, he would speak on the activities and pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, as he had heard them from Swarup Damodar. And it just so happened that when Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami went to Vrindavan, he heard those things from Raghunath Das Goswami. He would attend those meetings, and here we have Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunath. There we go. Next.
Prabhuji,
Yeah.
I have one question, Prabhuji. From 398, when we have that Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu 2.1.221 to 223, so is that the Sanskrit version is available in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu, not
Yes.
in Nectar of Devotion?
Yes, it's Sanskrit. In Nectar Devotion, it's Sanskrit.
So Nectar, what we are having on the vedabase.com, so that is Nectar of Devotion, that is the translated in English form.
Yes, it's a summary study of that.
Okay.
So there are verses that just like the Krishna book is a summary study of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, without the Sanskrit verses. Similarly, Nectar Devotion is a summary of the Sanskrit verses from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Good question.
Okay, fine. And one more, Prabhuji, when we are saying complete, more complete, and most complete, three, you clarified already, but to more clarify on that, how do we understand? Is it a kind of quality? Is only 64 quality is the complete in the unlimited form of all 64 qualities when Krishna comes in the Vrindavana? And in like different avatara, like Satyaves avatara or some different avatara, he comes in different places. Or Krishna himself, when he goes to the Dwarika or Mathura, so will he possess less qualities on that time? How to understand, Prabhuji?
Good question, Ram Kumar. So we were talking about this in the previous chapter. There were some very technical things. When Lord Krishna expands himself in Vaikuntha as Narayan, as Mahavishnu, etc., those of the 64 qualities, he's manifesting 60 qualities. So not all of the qualities. But still, he's still the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he's still complete. Although there are 4 qualities that he doesn't manifest, which are, he doesn't show his unparalleled beauty in Vaikuntha, although he's still incredibly attractive and beautiful, but not to the level of Krishna in Vrindavan. He doesn't attract the living entities by playing on his flute. He's not surrounded by devotees who have exalted, very intimate love of Godhead. And he doesn't, in Vaikuntha, he doesn't have wonderful childhood pastimes. So those experiences are there, but those 4 things are not there in Vaikuntha. So therefore it's called complete, but he's still the personality of Godhead. Then Mathura and Dwarka, he manifests some of those things. He manifests those things, but not fully. Mathura and Dwarka. So then, and then in Vrindavan and Vraj, he manifests them all fully.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Sure.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the last part when you said Lord Chaitanya sent Raghunath, Sri Raghunath to Damodar, and then Raghunath went to Banarasi or something. I didn't get the last part.
Okay, I'm sorry. So when Raghunath Das Goswami, who grew up in Bengal, later he joined Lord Chaitanya's movement and went to Jagannath Puri, where Lord Chaitanya was staying for the last 18 years of his manifest pastimes. And when Raghunath came, he was a little younger. He was put under the care of Lord Chaitanya's personal secretary, whose name was Swarup Damodar Goswami. Swarup Damodar, very intimate associate of Lord Chaitanya. There were several devotees who were considered the most intimate associates of Lord Chaitanya. One was Swarup Damodar. Another was Ramananda Roy. So Raghunath Das Goswami, while in Puri, he was under the care of Swarup Damodar Goswami, and he heard from Swarup Damodar all about Lord Chaitanya's activities and teachings. Not always direct. Of course, he had direct association with Lord Chaitanya as well, but principally he was getting his association through Swarup Damodar Goswami. So later, after Lord Chaitanya's disappearance, Raghunath Das Goswami went from Puri to Vrindavan, and he stayed outside Vrindavan at Radha Kund. And while at Radha Kund, he would every day give discourses on the activities and teachings of Lord Chaitanya in Radha Kund, and many devotees would attend. And one of the devotees who attended there in Radha Kund, those discourses, was the author, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. So that's how we're getting this information from Lord Chaitanya, Swarup Damodar, Raghunath Das Goswami, and Krishnadas Kaviraj.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Nice, thank you.
Hare Krishna, Vishnugada Prabhuji, this is Renuka.
Yes.
I have a very basic question. These days, ever since I joined ISKCON, and I think 2 weeks after that, I started being very regular. And sometimes there are 80% of the time, all the time I have is just complete the 16 rounds, and I'm literally pressed for time to read any other book. But I bought the books, whatever you told me to buy. Whatever you are following in the other classes, in the evening classes and all that. So when you're pressed for time and you don't have absolutely no time, and all you have is like 10 minutes left in the day, what is that one book that I can go and read?
Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, okay. So
they're all. Srila Prabhupada would sometimes say it's like, if you have a nice cake, anywhere you taste it, it's very sweet. So, but at the time, in our beginning time, Bhagavad Gita is like the foundation.
But see,
all are good, but Bhagavad Gita is beginning.
So basically, if you start a book, you have to complete that book before you jump to the other book. Am I right?
No.
Or you can jump.
Yeah, you can do simultaneously, just like in during ISKCON's day when Srila Prabhupada would come through temples, he would teach Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, sometimes Chaitanya Charitamrita. But if, like you're saying, you said if you only have time for one, then start with Bhagavad Gita. But if you have more time, then you can do them simultaneously. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Sure. The opulence, chapter 21, the opulence and sweetness of Lord Sri Krishna. It's a very good thing that you're thinking that way. If I have some time, let me use it to understand Krishna. That's the wonderful attitude of Krishna consciousness, to develop Krishna consciousness in the human form of life. Chanakya Pandit said, Ayushakshane kopi na labhya sarvakotibi. I don't know if you know this. Ayusha means life's duration. You can't even get back a moment of time, even if you have, if you're a millionaire or a billionaire even. You can't. So how much valuable is each moment of time in your life? So he recommended that if you have every day that you should, this is Chanakya, every day you should study a chapter of the Shastras, Vedic Shastras, especially Bhagavad Gita. But if you can't do a whole chapter, then just do one verse. And if you can't do one verse, then you don't have time for one verse, then just one word. But at least take that time, use your time to try to understand Krishna. So it's good. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gives the following summary study of the 21st chapter. In this chapter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fully describes Krishna Loka, the spiritual sky, the causal ocean, and the material world, which consists of innumerable universes. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then describes Lord Brahma's interview with Krishna at Dvaraka and the Lord's curbing the pride of Brahma. There is also a description of one of Krishna's pastimes with Brahma. In this chapter, the author of Chaitanya Charitamrita has presented some nice poems about the pastimes of Krishna and Krishna's super excellent beauty. Throughout the rest of this chapter, our intimate relationship sambandha with Krishna is described. So some of this was, we got an introduction to some of this in the last chapter, and Lord Chaitanya mentioned that all the Vedas, the essence of the Vedas, are dealing with three specific subjects. One of them is sambandha, or that means the relationship of the living entity with God, with the Supreme Lord. And what do you remember? The other two?
Abhideya and Prayojana.
Abhideya and Prayojana. Very, very good. Very good. And what does Abhideya mean?
Abhideya means which is not fructified. And Prayojana means ultimate truth, ultimate goal that is fructified.
Yes. Abhideya, there's different meanings of Abhideya, but Abhideya generally, as it was explained in the previous chapter, means acting in the relationship, with knowledge of that relationship, to engage in, which is devotional service, bhakti yoga. And then Prayojana means to get the result of that relationship. So here we have text 1.
And
This is Sanskrit also.
Remember about Madan Mohan, Govinda?
Yes, yes, yes. Very good, very good, very good.
Gopinath. You taught
Madan
us
Mohan
that.
is the deity of Sambandha. Madan
Gopinath.
Mohan, Govinda is the deity of Abhideya, and Gopinath is the deity of Prayojana. Thank you, thank you. Very nice.
Thank you.
So this is Sanskrit here. Agati ekagatim natva hinatarika shadakam Sri Chaitanya Nikatesya Madhuraishvarya Shikaram. Wow.
Nice.
Offering my obeisances unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, let me describe a particle of his opulence and sweetness. He is most valuable for a fallen conditioned soul bereft of spiritual knowledge, and is the only shelter for those who do not know the real goal of life. Just to look at that verse just for a moment, if you go up. Agati ekagatim. Agati means no, gati means goal, and agati means that person who has no goal. Ekagatim, he's the only goal for that person who has no goal. You follow? Very nice. Agati ekagatim natva. The only goal for that person for those who are bereft of spiritual knowledge, still have no goal. Very nice. Next verse. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Dvaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. I'm sorry, that's Bengali. I apologize. All glories to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to Lord Nityananda Prabhu, all glories to Advaita Charya, all glories to all the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. X3. Okay, that's yeah.
Sharbo Sharupir Dham Parobome Dhame. Sorry. Sharbo Sharupir Dham Parobom Dhame Prithak Prithak Boikuntho Shab Nahi Gonone.
Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued. All the transcendental forms of the Lord are situated in the spiritual sky. They preside over spiritual planets in that abode, but there is no counting those Vaikuntha planets. So Lord Ramchandra has his planet in the spiritual sky, etc. Yeah.
Shat Sahasro Ajuk Lokho Koti Jojon Ek Ek Boikunther Bistar Bornon.
The breadth of each Vaikuntha planet is described as 8 miles, multiplied by 100, by 1,000, by 10,000, by 100,000, and by 10 million. In other words, each Vaikuntha planet is expanded beyond our ability to measure. So those Vaikuntha planets are gigantic. And one thing to remember is in this material world, there are units. I mean, we have planets within each universe, but there's unlimited universes, and those universes are pretty big, billions of miles in diameter, in breadth. So in the spiritual sky, which is a spiritual universe, they're not individual universes, but there's these individual Vaikuntha planets, which are very, very large.
Chob Boikuntho Bapok Anando Chinmoy Parishad Shoreishorjo Purno Shob Hoy.
Each Vaikuntha planet is very large and is made of spiritual bliss. The inhabitants are all associates of the Supreme Lord, and they have full opulence like the Lord himself. Thus, they are all situated.
অনন্ত বৈকুণ্ঠ এক এক দেশে যার, সেই পরবম ধামের কে করু বিস্তার।
Since all the Vaikuntha planets are located in a certain corner of the spiritual sky, who can measure the spiritual sky?
অনন্ত বৈকুণ্ঠ পরবম যার দল শ্রেণী, সর্বোপরি কৃষ্ণলোক কর্ণিকার গণী।
The shape of the spiritual sky is compared to a lotus flower. The topmost region of that flower is called the whirl. And within that whirl is Krishna's abode. The petals of the spiritual lotus flower consist of many Vaikuntha planets.
এই মত ষড়ৈশ্বর্য স্থান অবতার, ব্রহ্মা শিব অন্ত না পায় জীব কোন ছাড়।
Each Vaikuntha planet is full of spiritual bliss, complete opulence, and space, and each is inhabited by incarnations. If Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot estimate the length and breadth of the spiritual sky and the Vaikuntha planets, how can ordinary living entities begin to imagine them? This is Sanskrit. Ko veti bhuman bhagavan paratman yogeshvaro tir bhavatas trilokyam kvavakatam vakati vakadeti vistariyan kridashi yogamayam. O Supreme Great One, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Super Soul, Master of mystic power, of all mystic power, your pastimes are taking place continuously in these worlds, but who can estimate where, how, and when you are employing your spiritual energy and performing your pastimes? No one can understand the mysteries of these activities. Purport. This verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 14th chapter, 21st verse.
এই মত কৃষ্ণের দিব্য সদ্গুণ অনন্ত, ব্রহ্মা শিব সনকাদি না পায় যার অন্ত।
The spiritual qualities of Krishna are also unlimited. Great personalities like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the four Kumaras cannot estimate the spiritual qualities of the Lord. Gunat manaste pigunan vimatum hitavitir nasya ishirisya kalena jarva vimuta sukalpair bhupam savake mikita jubhasha. In time, great scientists may be able to count all the atoms of the universe, all the stars and planets in the sky, all the particles of snow. But who among them can count the unlimited transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? He descends on the surface of the globe for the benefit of all living entities. Purport. This verse is quoted from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 14th chapter, 7th verse. This prayer, I think some of you might know who spoke this prayer.
Yeah, Vyasadeva.
Yeah, but he's repeating it. Originally, it was spoken by Lord Brahma himself. Lord Brahma himself, after he was bewildered by Lord Krishna during the time when he kidnapped the calves and cowherd boys and thought they had played a trick on Krishna. So he was completely flabbergasted by Krishna's potency at that time. We'll read about it here. That's going to be described. But this is one of the prayers that he said. In time, great scientists may be able to count all the atoms of the universe, or all the stars or planets in the sky and the particles of snow. But as far as I'm concerned, I have no idea. who among them can count the unlimited transcendental qualities of the Supreme Lord? I can't do it. And he's the topmost person within the universe. So, okay. I think our time is there. Thank you very much for your attention to these very elevated subject matters and your patience.
Prabhu, I have one question.
Yes.
So Krishna has many incarnation, different form like Nishinga, Vamana, and all the different incarnation. So each of this incarnation, what I understood, has their own planet
Yes.
in the spiritual sky.
You mean
Yes.
the incarnations like the Dasavatara?
Well, certain ones, there are certain avatars that are expansions, direct expansions of Krishna. And some of them are Shakti Avesh, which means they're empowered incarnations. So the empowered incarnations may not have their planet, but all those that are his expansions directly have their planet. Yes, like as you mentioned, Ram, Kurma, Varaha, they have their planets. Yes.
So all the Vishnu avatar.
Yes.
So those planets can be linked to the modern planets like Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter stuff?
No. These are planets in the spiritual sky beyond this material universe. So in this universe, we've got a lot of planets in the Milky Way and stars and stuff like that. But this planet is compared in the Vedic literature to like this universe is compared to be like one mustard seed in a bag of mustard seeds. So there's unlimited universes, and that's just in 1/4 of the whole creation. 3/4 of the creation, and beyond those material universes is the spiritual sky or Paravyom, which is eternal. The material universes are created and destroyed in intervals, but the spiritual Paravyom is eternal. It's not created or destroyed at intervals. That's why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Parastasmatu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatana. Beyond this world, which is created and annihilated on schedule, there's a transcendental place, and that's my tadhama paramama. That's my place. It's never destroyed or never annihilated.
So the living entities, when they go there, they reside in this planet. Like if you go back home, back to Godhead, do you reside in one of these planets?
You may reside in the Vaikuntha planet, or you may reside in Krishna Loka or Goloka Vrindavan. Some people don't immediately go. Some people go. They may go up in the material planets to Brahma Loka or, Indra Loka, and then make their way up if they continue to practice spiritual activities. But for the pure devotees, they go to the spiritual sky, either to the Vaikuntha planet or to Krishna's planet. But if they go to Krishna's planet, what we read earlier is first they get trained up on Krishna's roadshow before they go back to Goloka Vrindavan. So that's not said, that aspect isn't said about the other Vaikuntha planets. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Oh, thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha
Antakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you for saying Brahma Karuna. Thank you very much.